Can you feel that? The chill as it spreads through your body. A shiver runs up your spine as the brisk wind bites. This is no time to freeze. You stand face to face with veterans, masters of this world, champions in these conditions. Focus on your training. Use the pressure as it cracks the world around you. As the ground melts beneath you, slow your breathing. Focus your mind. The Arctic awaits.
Check the flag.
Extreme E's ship, the St. Helena, had delivered its cargo at its third race location, Kangerlussuaq, Greenland, which would play host to the Arctic X-Prix.
I think coming to Greenland is what makes Extreme E really fulfill its goal. We've been to many places, incredible places around the world, but Greenland is kind of the center of what's going on in the planet. Here is where the ice cap is melting, and that has a knock-on effect on many other areas of the planet. Bringing a race to Greenland was one of the craziest things. Nothing of this scale has ever happened in this country, so it was very challenging, but we had amazing help. The locals have been incredible, so welcoming, so helpful. We made it happen, and I think it's great for Extreme E, it's great for the awareness we raised, and also it's great for Greenland.
With Extreme E aiming to highlight the issues climate change poses to humanity globally, bringing the world's attention to the impact it is having here is extremely important for our planet.
The Arctic is incredibly important in studying climate change because it's warming up faster than any other part of the world.
Greenland is an important piece of the climate change problem because 80% of the island is covered by an ice sheet. It's very vulnerable to warming, and therefore we're losing ice. We're losing ice on Greenland, but we're also losing sea ice. And the sea ice is a mirror that reflects solar radiation back to the atmosphere. And when we lose it, rather than being reflected up, it's absorbed by the ocean and contributes to warming. Since 1979 to present, we have seen losses of sea ice in the summer, which have increased at 13% per decade. So the Greenland ice sheet is one of the most important reservoirs of ice in the planet.
This is, of course, a huge ice sheet, but it's losing mass at an enormous rate. In fact, last time we were on it, it was the biggest daily loss in history, was 12.5 billion tons of water melted off in that one day.
And on the last years, the rate of loss of ice and the delivery of fresh water to the ocean has been equivalent to be able to flood England with 2 meters of water every year coming from the Greenland ice sheet.
In August this year, the rain was observed to fall on the top of the Greenland ice sheet for the first time. That's 4,000 meters above sea level, and it's never rained there before. The big consequence of the melting of land ice is that sea level rises, and it's inexorable that it's rising. And all of that retreat produces meltwater, and the meltwater goes into the ocean and causes sea level rise. More than 600 million people live in areas that are below 10 meters above sea level.
We must absolutely take action everywhere to avoid that the unleashed climate change that we're starting to experience in the Arctic propagates and cascades and affects the entire planet. It is a situation where we need all hands on deck and all solutions on deck.
The world's finest drivers have joined brand new teams to compete in the Extreme E Championship. Each team will consist of 1 female and 1 male driver. The drivers will compete in X-Prix across the globe, each highlighting a specific environmental issue. An Extreme E race consists of 2 laps. The male and female driver must complete 1 lap each. Each team has 2 hyperdrive power boosts they can activate on lap 1 and lap 2 of the race. Expect strategy and tactics. Over the course of an X-Prix, the quickest team that goes fastest through the super sector collects a further 5 team championship points. Day 1 is qualifying and consists of 2 qualifying rounds. In each round, every team does 2 laps against the clock, with both drivers driving a lap each. In both rounds, there are qualifying points up for grabs, and this determines how they progress to the Day 2 semi-finals and Crazy Race. There are also championship points to be won, with the top team in qualifying bagging 12 vital championship points, down to the last place qualifying team who walk away with just 4 championship points. Day 2 starts with the semi-final, with the top 2 teams from each semi progressing to the final. The bottom 3 teams from Day 1's qualifying go head-to-head in the Crazy Race, with the winner taking the last remaining place in the final. Grid play allows fans to vote for their favourite teams and drivers. The team that collects the most votes gets first grid position pick for the final, with the second and third teams choosing in order after. But there is a twist. The teams who do not reach the final can still have an impact, as they donate their votes to any team that reaches the final and influence who eventually wins the all-important grid play. The fastest 2 teams from semi-final 1 and 2 and the winner of the Crazy Race will battle it out in the 5-car final. The team that crosses the line first wins the X-Prix and claims 25 championship points, with the following teams collecting further championship points in descending order. All 5 X-Prix count towards the Teams Championship, and in the Drivers' Championship, competitors can drop their worst X-Prix result of the season. Who has what it takes to lift the trophy? Before the drivers headed out in their Odyssey 21 racing machines for qualifying session 1 of the Arctic X-Prix, they shared their thoughts on racing in such a stunning and remote location.
Yeah, I'm really proud to be part of Extreme E. Obviously the racing is awesome, but to be able to educate our fans as well of the issues and really get right in the thick of it and see for our own eyes, these spectacular locations and the real issues, but also importantly what we can do to help be part of the solution.
We're definitely here to race, and that's what we've all come into this sport for, and racing here is going to be something completely new for me anyway, but it's really cool to be lining up here. I'm just really excited to start the race.
The racecourse sits in the valley below the retreating Greenland ice sheet, and it will present a whole host of new challenges in the terrain for the teams and drivers. The wide-open, rocky and sandy start quickly becomes tighter and tighter into a narrow and technical uphill run, which then levels out into the equally tricky lake section.
I think here in Greenland, with the service that we have, is a little bit more towards what I'm used to. I think Alula and Senegal was a bit more soft and deep sand. Particularly Senegal was a very bumpy ride, so I was not really used to that.
There's a lot of different surfaces out there, and it's for sure a challenge from surface to surface. I mean, in the beginning we have a lot of sand, very similar to the first 2 locations, and then we get on to gravel and stones. Very much, a different feeling in the car, and a big challenge for all the drivers.
Having successfully navigated through the tightest sections of the course, they drop down to take on the most scenic hairpin in motorsport with the backdrop of the Russell Glacier. The course then opens up and sees the cars take on huge drops and jumps as they tackle the super sector. The wide-open back straight leads into a sharp left, dropping the cars down into the treacherous rock garden. With huge boulders and sharp rocks to face, the team's approach here will make or break their laps.
It's impressive because a lot of technical parts with the rocks, with sand, so it's really impressive circuit here. I think the key is try to be constant and not push a lot from the beginning, because I think in this circuit it's going to be a little bit difficult.
This being the toughest track on the Extreme E calendar to date, it's going to test every ounce of each driver's tenacity and talent. This course in cold temperatures would be the toughest challenge for the electric cars and drivers of the Extreme E adventure yet, as they headed out for qualifying session 1. Abt Cupra XE with Matthias Ekstrom and Jutta Kleinschmidt behind the wheel were lightning fast, with a near flawless performance putting them provisionally at the top of the timesheet. Rosberg X Racing, the championship leaders, with 2 wins from 2 under their belts, were next up, and their hopes of cruising to another victory were crushed during Q1 as the Arctic terrain caused havoc for their run. 3-time World Rallycross champ Johan Kristoffersson stopped 3 times on track, massively adding to their total qualifying time. Frustrated, he handed over to Molly Taylor and things managed to go from bad to worse.
Oh, Molly Taylor's rolled! She's rolled the car! It's going again! Go on, Molly!
Not the start to the day that we wanted, but yeah, this is Extreme E and anything can happen. Thankfully we landed back on the wheels and the damage was pretty minimal.
Segi TV Chip Ganassi Racing were looking to finally break their bad luck in qualifying. Sarah Price headed out first and was looking fast. She handed over to Kyle LeDuc with the Q1 top spot well within reach. True to form, he went flat out throughout the lap, managing to set the fastest super sector so far in the process. P1 was theirs for the taking, but as Kyle passed through the final gate, he knocked over one of the gate markers and received a 10-second time penalty, dropping them behind Abt Cupra.
We had a good qualifying one. We did have a penalty for a flag dropping when Kyle was out there. It was the last flag, so we got 10 seconds added. I think we would have been first. Hopefully we can make it happen, make it to the final, and finally get a chance at this.
Having seen the pace of the Chip Ganassi team before him, Andretti United driver Timmy Hansen knew what he had to do. He was pushing hard throughout the lap and flew through the super sector, besting LeDuc's time by half a second. And as he approached the end of the lap, they were fastest overall. But just as he slammed onto the brakes before entering the switch zone, a technical issue saw his car shut down. He did get going once again and handed over to Katie Munnings, but the damage had already been done.
I think we were super fast. We got the super sector. The car's been feeling great, but unfortunately it stopped in Q1. Yeah, that really means the day over. We have to take where we are and look forward and try and get into the final tomorrow.
Lewis Hamilton's team, X44, had qualified top of the times in the opening 2 rounds of the series, with Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez combining to make an unbeatable time trial duo. Despite the massive change in terrain from the opening 2 rounds and the other cars having issues, they managed to put together 2 perfect laps and once again secured the top spot in Q1.
Cristina did a good job. It was really close with Jutta. I tried to push really hard to close the gap, and I was able to win the stage. So many cars had some troubles or things like that. So we need to close the finger and hope that we will have a clean Q2. Hopefully we can stay in this position. For the moment it's looking quite good for the weekend.
With the new quali format meaning there was still a fighting chance for those who had issues in Q1, it was still all to play for going into Q2. The Arctic X Prix is Extreme E's most remote race to date, highlighting the melting of the ice caps due to global warming and how it will affect our planet globally. Despite having minimal feet on the ground, it is still the biggest event ever in Greenland's history, bringing the world's attention to the tiny town of Kangerlussuaq.
In Kangerlussuaq, 500 people lives here, and when Extreme E is coming now, with 500, maybe 600 people, we have more than double than usual. We've never seen anything like that in Greenland before. A lot of planning over these last 2 years together with Extreme E to accommodate all the people, to find out where they are going to eat, how to get back and forth between the town and the race site. A lot of work. Climate change is 3 times worse in the Arctic than in the rest of the world. That's why it's so visible here, and so we have a shared goal with Extreme E to show these extreme changes For example, the river just behind us, 8 years ago it floated over because there was so much meltwater coming from the ice cap. It destroys our bridge, and of course we couldn't get a new bridge just like that. Greenland is so far from the rest of the world, so when we experience new challenges, it takes time to adapt, and we face those challenges all the time. We are happy that Extreme E is here. That will showcase this for the rest of the world, the challenges we face and the challenges the rest of the world will face in the future as well. That's why it's so important that this gets out to the rest of the world.
There are many challenges that face Greenland, and it's hard to fully understand this stunning remote location without experiencing its brutal wilderness firsthand. After arriving in the Arctic, Segi TV Chip Ganassi racing drivers Sarah Price and Kyle LeDuc joined an expedition to hike and camp overnight on the ice sheet.
We go to the ice cap, get into the camp, you put your tent up, and before the light go down, we go out and hike, and you can see the ice cap before the sun go down. So I suggest when we move fast, you can see the change of the ice cap.
Every time you bring people up here, they're like amazed, and here they can see for themselves how fast the ice cap is melting. And it's a very big thing for Greenland that Extreme E having the event here in Kangerlussuaq. It's one of the biggest events in Greenland ever.
After hiking in the near-complete darkness on the ice, with the rain coming down, they had arrived at their camp, and working as a team, they set up their tents in 30-mile-per-hour Arctic winds.
We just got here to base camp at this incredible ice cap we're at in Greenland, and got my tent. We're gonna go find a spot to put this. Hopefully I know how to pinch a tent. We'll see. Let's give it a shot. So yeah, come help me find a spot. They're asking what you think a good spot is to pitch a tent.
It's like 5 miles that way, back in camp. It would be a great spot. I don't know, over there's a nice river, get a nice
Oh, this isn't even a tent.
Oh my God, we're gonna die. We're gonna die. Definitely eye-opening to be here and actually step from ground that we're all used to a massive field of ice that's never ending. So to really set up a tent and come out here and rough it in a place like this is, I don't know of anybody that's ever done this. So it's cool, it's a cool experience, just trying to live in the moment and realize why we're here and what we're doing.
One more notch. Oh, there you go, got it. I'm actually really excited. I'm cold, but it's a part of the adventure. This is very, very up my alley when it comes to journeys and adventure, even when I'm cold.
With their homes for the night set up and the northern lights overhead, they called it a night and tried to get some well-earned rest. And as the sun rose over the glacier, they spent the morning trying to defrost and reflect on their adventure.
Never been immersed into a cold environment like this, so definitely different. I'm probably going to remember this the rest of my life. This is going to be an adventure of a lifetime. We went to bed with some wet feet. I just tried to warm them up and just burnt my shoelaces off. Like, legitimately just burnt them off. Part of being extreme, huh? We are part of Extreme E here, so couldn't expect any less.
You know, I came super prepared, ready for the Arctic freeze, and brought my Hanes, size 6 to 10 men's socks. definitely not prepared, but trying to stay warm. It's not working.
Nothing prepares you for seeing, one, ice like this, and two, seeing it deteriorate so fast. And yeah, it should be snowing. It's raining right now, and I don't think that's good. But man, I'm gonna remember this forever.
You can see as many images or pictures or people climbing on ice that you want, but until you put a mile in, looking down and realizing you're walking on possibly hundreds of feet of ice, it's pretty eye-opening. And yeah, there's also the bad side of it. I mean, you wonder if there is something we can do about it. So all you can do is do your little part. You know, I could change my entire life and do massive things for myself, but it won't affect much here. But if the entire world takes 1/8 of an inch and does a little bit of effort, we can move mountains. So it's a big deal just to recognize what's happened and what's happening and where we are. And yeah, it's pretty eye-opening to realize this is a real thing, and only we can take care of it or destroy it.
Back at the race site near Kangalusak, qualifying session 2 was about to begin, and the drama-filled morning session had shown exactly how extreme the Arctic course was. With the cars rebuilt, recharged and ready to run once again, the teams and drivers headed out for Q2. Abt Cupra were looking to upgrade their P2 finish in Q1 and secure the overall qualifying win. Matthias Ekström was once again looking super fast behind the wheel, but as he approached the end of the lap, it became clear they had a big problem to solve.
After the first third of the track, I got punctured, but then when I came to the rock garden to the end of the lap, the tire that had no puncture took all the load, and I got a big hit, so the car broke down and we couldn't replace the tire because the rim was so badly bent.
Segi TV Chip Ganassi Racing had managed to keep their qualifying demons at bay during Q1 and were in with a strong shot of making one of the semi-finals. But only 3 gates into Kyle's run, disaster struck once again.
We just had a problem in the second session with our upright. This wasn't our day. So yeah, this team's pretty bummed. I'm bummed. But we still have a chance to win some way, somehow.
In desperate need of a better run the second time out was Andretti United after their car had let them down earlier in the day. There was no such technical issues for their Odyssey 21 this time out, and they went to the top of the times. Rosberg X Racing needed to bounce back after a disastrous morning. Having repaired their car after Molly Taylor's dramatic roll and hoping they'd fix the technical issue which caused the car to stop multiple times on track, they were pushing super hard in Q2. Showing the relentless full-send attitude and pace that saw them secure the win in the opening 2 X-Prix, they combined to set the fastest time of the session and fire them back up the overall quali standings.
It's been a bit of a wild day, not at all what we planned, but I think, you know, like every team is finding out here, you've got to make the best of any situation that you're in, which that's what we have to do, and glad that we could fight back this afternoon.
X44, after their Q1 success, headed out once again. With their closest rivals having succumbed to technical and mechanical issues during the second session, they needed to play it relatively safe to secure the overall win. But when you're as talented as Cristina Gutierrez and Sebastian Loeb, safe doesn't mean slow. They were still rapid throughout the lap and managed to achieve a P2 in Q2, meaning their combined results secured them the qualifying win for the 3rd round in a row.
It's a really tough qualifying too, especially for other cars, so we take it easy. We did the best time. We are very happy.
And when we saw what happens in front with the other cars, breaking the tires and everything, we decided to take it a bit easy. We made the calculation and we did what we had to do, so just finishing without big risk, and it has been a perfect day.
That win meant they would head out into semi-final 1 against Veloce Racing and Acciona Sainz. Abt Cupra's success from Q1 and the brilliant comeback performers in Andretti United and RXR will do battle in semi-final 2, with the bottom 3 teams, JBXE, Excite Energy Racing and Chip Ganassi Racing, heading to the Crazy Race to fight it out for the last spot in the first 5-car final. Despite making the difficult decision to postpone the Amazon X-Prix until Extreme E's second season in 2022 due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, Extreme E is committing to fulfill its legacy program initiatives in Brazil. To mark Amazon Day, in partnership with global environmental organisation The Nature Conservancy, they're increasing the funding of native forest restoration and expanding support to 300 agroforestry farmers and adding another 50 cocoa farmers by the end of 2021. Seeing the expansion of cocoa agroforestry on degraded pasture land and helping local farmers harvest higher value commodity beans builds sustainable livelihoods for families in the region for decades to come. Next time on Electric Odyssey. Some of the drivers take to the skies alongside a local female pilot to get a whole new perspective on this beautiful location.
The scenery is just so spectacular, and to see the scale, yeah, it was amazing.
We explore how Extreme E's legacy projects in Greenland will help both the local people and the global science community.
So what we want to find out is how much of the sediment is soot from wildfires. Is that more than last year or more than in the past? Is it a serious addition to the melt rate of the ice sheet?
Plus all the action from the first two races, as the drivers go head-to-head in the semi-finals to decide who will stay in the running for the Arctic X Prix crown.
Oh, they're side by side! It's a brilliant move by Stefan Sarazan to take the lead!